Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayat.
Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of God and Narayan, unto Narayan Vishnu, supremest human being, unto
Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author.
Hey, we're getting good at this. Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna
Shrinvatam Sakata Krishna
Punya Shravana Kirtanaha
Punya Shavana Kirtanaha
Vidyantastoya Bhadrani
Vidyantastha Bhadrani
Vidunoti Suhritsatam
Vidurati Suritsatam.
Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is, somebody's reading, who is the Paramatma Super Soul in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. So I thought you were getting it so you could say it, but you were reading. Okay. Nashta prayeshu bhadreshu
Nashta prayeshu abhadreshu
Nityam bhagavata sevaya
Nityam bhagavata sevaya
Bhagavati uttama shloke
Bhagavati uttama shloke
Bhaktir bhavati naishtiki
Bhaktir bhavati naishtiki.
By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all
that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service through the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Jai.
Okay, we have a reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 19, the appearance of Shukadeva Goswami, verse 11. Anye cha Devarshi Brahmarshi Varya Anye cha Devarshi Brahmarshi Varya
Anye cha Devarshi Brahmarshi Varya.
Wait, do that again. Anye cha Devarshi Brahmarshi Varya
Anye cha Devarshi Brahmarshi Varya
Rajarshi Varya Arunadayascha.
Rajarshi Varya Arunadayascha.
I forgot to do the words individually. Do you need me to do the words individually? Is everything clear? I think everybody did all right anyways. So.
I prefer when you do the words.
Okay, Rajarshi
Varya
Arunadayascha
Arunadayascha
Rajarshi Varya Arunadayascha Arunadayascha
Rajarshi Varya Arunadayascha Nanarshaya
Pravaran
Sametan
Nanarshaya Pravaran Sametan Abhyarchya Raja Shirasa Bhavande Abhyarchya Raja Shirasa Bhavande Anye cha devarshi brahmarshi varya Rajarshi varya arunadayascha Nanarshaya pravaran sametan Abhyarchya raja shirasa bhavande Anye cha devarshi brahmarshi varya Rajarshi varya arunadayascha Nanarshaya pravaran sametan Abhyarchya raja shirasa bhavande
Anye cha devarshi brahmasi varya Rajarshi varya arunadayascha Nanarshaya pravaran sametan Avyarcha raja sirasa bhavande
Annecha devarshi brahmarshi varya Rajarshi varya arunadayascha Nanarshaya pravaran sametan Abhyarcha raja sirasa bhavande
Anyecha devashi brahmasi varya Rajarshi varya anuradayascha Nanarsena pravaran sametan Raya raja sirasa bhavande
Anybody else? This is actually a fun one to me. Okay, we're meanings. Anye, many others. Cha, also. Devarshi, saintly demigods. Brahmarshi, saintly brahmanas. Varya, topmost. Rajarshi varya, topmost saintly kings. Aruna adaya, a special rank of Rajarshis. Cha, and Nana, many others. Arshaya pravaran, chief amongst the dynasties of the sages. Sametan, assembled together. Abhyarchya, by worshipping. Raja, the emperor. Shirasa, bowed his head to the ground. Bhavande, welcomed. So, There were also, translation and purport. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
So there were also many other saintly demigods, kings, and special royal orders called Arunadayas, a special rank of Rajarshis. From Rajarshis is Raja Arshis, Raja Rishi, Raja Rishi. Raja Rishi, in other words, saintly kings, saintly rishis. The kings who are like sages. From different dynasties of sages. When they all assembled together to meet the emperor Parikshit, he received them properly and bowed his head to the ground. Please repeat. There were also many other saintly demigods.
There were
Also many other saintly demigods,
Kings,
kings,
and special royal orders
and
special royal orders
called Arunadayas,
called Arunadayas,
a special rank of Rajarshis,
a special rank of Rajasis
from different dynasties of sages.
from different dynasties.
When they all assembled together to meet the emperor Parikshit,
When they all assembled together to meet the Emperor Parikshit,
he received them properly
He received them properly
and bowed his head to the ground.
and bowed his head to the ground.
Report. The system of bowing the head to the ground to show respect to superiors is an excellent etiquette which obliges the honored guest deep into the heart. Even the first great offender is excused simply by this process. And Maharaj Parikshit, although honored by all the rishis and kings, welcomed all the big men in that humble etiquette in order to be excused from any offenses. Generally, at the last stage of one's life, this humble method is adopted by every sensible man in order to be excused before departure. In this way, Maharaj Parikshit implored everyone's goodwill for going back home back to Godhead.
Anjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
Born in the darkness of
Ignorance and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the total light of knowledge of my respectful obeisances unto Him.
So we have this in this kind. We don't always practice it too well, but we have this. It's been established. I remember in the old days when two friends met each other, they would just, oh, Haribo, bunch of opportunities here, Haribo, good to see you. It's always going on. And now it's sort of like toned down. We save it for special occasions or formal occasions. But it's a good system. It's something good. We have to make sure to keep it, and not lose it, because as time goes on, and in the course of things and disagreements and just misunderstandings and all kinds of things that happen, various fall downs, everything accumulates, and so we get a little like closed up, and maybe we are a little cautious about offering obeisances to each other. So we have to work on keeping this alive, because it's very nice, a very good thing. Even when he said at the end of life to do this, of course we don't know when the end is coming, but to do this to be excused from all offenses before departure, because we don't know when the end is coming, so we should keep up with it like housework. It's not like guests are coming and all of a sudden you do all your housework. Well, maybe it is like that, but it's not supposed to be just like that. So should keep up to it, keep up and try to keep clean, offer your obeisances and everything when you've done wrong, when you made offenses. And another thing that goes on, sometimes we get a little burned out on this, not just offering obeisances, but also forgiving. Because we don't, just because we recognize we did something wrong doesn't necessarily mean we've cured the cause. So we may do it again and again for a while. And it gets embarrassing maybe to make the same mistakes again and again. So then we close up a little. We don't want to again offer forgiveness or offer obeisances and apologies and all that. And maybe the other person doesn't want to again forgive. So we have to not allow that kind of thing to creep in to our relationships. We have to keep on forgiving each other. In the Bible, Jesus said, somebody asked Jesus, how often should I forgive my brother if he sins against me? 7 times? They thought he was being really generous, saying 7 times. And he implied there's a limit. And Jesus said 70 times, 7 times. So that's 490 times. So if anybody can offend somebody 490 times, I suppose maybe there's a limit. But, if you're taking that literally, the point is we have to keep forgiving. The point is if somebody is sorry, we have to keep forgiving. We have to not just say, well, that's enough times. You said you're sorry so many times, now if you don't change, I'm not going to forgive you anymore. Well, it depends. If somebody's doing something harmful, it has to be stopped. It's not just, oh, you did a harmful thing again. Okay, well, you did a harmful thing again. Harm has to be stopped. But it's just like mistakes, little minor offenses. Prabhupada said, forgive one another's offenses. So the best way to forgive it helps if you ask forgiveness. That helps the other person forgive you. And this bowing down, it obliges the other person deep within their heart. If somebody will actually humble themselves to you, then you feel obliged in your heart. So it touches your heart. If somebody will actually do that, humble themselves. So this is a hard thing. It's hard to trust each other this much. It's hard to trust Krishna this much. So it's a thing that we are working on, and sometimes enough things happen that a person feels like, this is it, I'm not gonna, and actually we've got to guard against that. So we have to keep on forgiving and trying to help each other. And we have to keep on humbling ourselves and asking forgiveness. And we get a certain point of embarrassed, I'm not even going to ask forgiveness anymore because I'm just always doing this. So we have to have courage. It takes a little bit of courage, too, and trust in Krishna, to keep on apologizing. You did something again that you're not supposed to do, and you went and did it again because you didn't figure out what the cause of it is yet, so you still do it. So that, of course, this is a part of anartha nivritti, to find out the causes of our mistakes and offenses. And they'll be in there in some form of anartha that can be analyzed according to the scriptural instructions of the acharyas about what anarthas are. They'll be in there somewhere. But maybe not easy to find at first, maybe take a while. So we're all working on this, and we need to remember to offer obeisances to each other and be humble, ask our forgiveness, ask forgiveness of others, like this, and keep the hearts open, keep the passageways open between us. And it's not easy, because we retreat. We retreat. We don't want to keep doing this. It's embarrassing, or it's irritating of somebody else, or sometimes you want to say, this is it, this is it, I've had it. But if there's still sorrow, there's still some regret. There's no regret, then watch out for that person, because they don't care who they hurt. But if there's regret, and sometimes we have to have courage to express our regret. So we have to keep these communications open. And this was a good example. Maharaj Parikshit, he had some reason to close up. How many great kings put a dead snake on a great sage's shoulders? He had some reason to be really embarrassed and close up. But he didn't. He didn't close up. He stayed open. He offered his humble obeisances. So it's humble, something to understand, to not just beat on yourself, but to understand yourself as so human that we could do something like that. To understand yourself, okay, I am not God. I'm not as good as God. I'm a human. I can do mistakes like that. So there's a certain amount of humility in its own way, too. That it's to not beat on yourself, but to humble yourself. So there's a lot of lessons in this for all of us. That's why the Srimad Bhagavatam is the very means of conquest, because there are constant lessons in for us. And the more we hear, the more we feel encouraged, and more able, more we understand, the more we can move forward. And so Let's see. Is there any question? Because this is also the appearance there of Narottam Das Thakur, and I'll talk a little bit about him. So is there a discussion on this topic from this verse before we move on to that? Questions or comments?
I'll save them for tomorrow.
You'll save yours for tomorrow? Okay.
I'm trying to think about right here. I'm listening to.
Okay. Nothing from Krishna Shaya.
Waiting,
That's it.
waiting for the next.
Asking for questions?
Yeah. You got it?
I know what you're saying is how we should conduct ourselves, but there's people that in my family, that I have to deal with that they just hold things, and they're not gonna, if you cross them, badly or more than a time or two, they just don't forget it, and they're gonna, decades later be talking about what you did. So it's really like an exalted personality that can be so forgiving, because I've heard people say, if you say you're sorry and then you do it again, how sorry, how contrite can you be? They're just not going to go for it times again and again. So, I guess that we should understand that and have that expectation that, there are people like that, and then maybe they won't get so frustrated when, because, there's other people too that just, in 5 minutes it's finished, but then someone may think, well, how sincere are you? If you can forgive so quickly, because they don't, then they just don't buy it. So I don't know, what do you think, how should you proceed?
I have some like that in my family too, and honestly I'm not strong enough to humble myself before them, because I'm just scared they're going to trounce on me. And I just didn't feel, there was an incident, which I won't describe it particularly, but with my aunt and uncle, and I just didn't feel strong enough to humble myself. I didn't do it what they said I did, but I tried to explain everything. But sometimes you got to, if you're not strong enough and they're not devotees, it's, stay away from them or stay away from that topic or something, or brace yourself. If you can't change them, because they are not going from a Vaishnava platform wherein they understand that how strong Maya is, that we are in illusion, that we are not these bodies, that we have anartas, that we have karma. They don't understand any of that stuff. And so they just, in their little world, they just hold a grudge. And if you can't do anything with that, and if you don't feel strong enough to subject yourself to that acting humble, then stay away. Or stay a little internally aloof from it. But among devotees, we have this knowledge of our eternal identity and what Maya is, what anartas are, and what karma is, and humility, and all of we understand this stuff. So we can actually look at this. And there are still devotees who are going to hold a grudge. And but at least you all have the same understanding, you all understand the same language. So they know what they're supposed to do. They devotees who are going to hold a grudge still, they know what they're supposed to do. Maybe they don't want to let go of the grudge because of their own anartas, whatever it may be. Maybe they don't dare let go of their grudge for some reason. But at least we understand that we all understand. We all know this knowledge. It's so well explained by Srila Prabhupada and so all-inclusive, and again and again in his books, if anybody has read some of his books and attended some classes and associated some with devotees, they get the idea. So at least we have that among ourselves.
So it's Gyan, but it may not be
Well, yeah, but we can't, so a person may have realization too, but they haven't figured out the anarta behind it. And so that's where we have to have we have to have our compassion, courage, and our own humility to understand that we're all in illusion and we're all struggling. So we have to just keep applying that. And there's no point at which we say, you apologize enough times, therefore you're not sincere. However, we can judge by other ways whether they're lying or not when they apologize, just doing it politically or to get their own gain, or I'm trying to think as I talk.
Well, I hope so.
Yes, if somebody keeps doing harm, you got to take steps to stop the harm. If what they did, we had this in the past. We had somebody who's doing harm repeatedly. We had to take steps to stop the harm. Yet we understand that person, that there's something wrong inside, that we know that person is a soul. So, we have both levels of knowledge at the same time. But if somebody just keeps on being sorry, really sorry, then don't just judge them and say, you can't be very sorry if you're still doing it. No, maybe they just haven't figured out that inertia yet. And they don't know exactly why it happens. So you're next, and then you, because you had your hand up a while.
I was reading an article. A man had an affair on his wife, and the counselor gave him this advice, or her this advice. The forgiveness is really for you and your healing, not for him. But also it went on that each time that thought comes back up, she has to go through that process. And hopefully time would help.
All of it's a challenge on both sides. It takes courage and real humility and knowledge of self. It takes faith in Krishna. It's not easy on either side.
But if he kept going out and doing it every other night, then there's a problem there.
Yeah, right. Really, and if this harm won't stop, then you got to take some action to protect from further harm too. So I think Gopal Ranjana next.
I don't remember if I did, but he just said something that I don't want to respond to. I thought I did, but I don't really want to. Because I got the opposite advice in a similar situation.
But from who?
Well, from other women I might as well just say it, that they told me I should be patient with my former wife because she has to get over her feelings. And I thought, well, that's pretty strange. What about me? I mean, what about what happened to me? And but that I over time this actually this is very personal. But the forgiveness is first of all you have to learn how to forgive yourself. That's what I have the most trouble with, is forgiving myself. But also when you, I don't want to overgeneralize here, but if you see something in someone, then this is a standard cliche, then it may also be something that you're dealing with, that maybe you really haven't forgiven. And they're responding to that. That's, so it's, get down to it, really to the core. It's not, such an easy thing. And letting go isn't just always, you may see it in someone, but you may also, they see it in you.
It's true. Yes.
I always have to say something about this. This actually is a big topic, and it's different for everybody, Sometimes you think, why this person cannot forgive this one, It all comes from the mind. And actually, if you have compassion, I feel, if you're compassionate to people, animals, different things, it's easier to forgive, But if you are like a little harsh and you have things that you're holding on, like someone said here, I think, you hold it for, some people hold this for years, and you're wondering why, and it's easy for somebody, and it's harder for someone. So we need to be patient, and time. I find time heals everything, and you have to make an attempt, and it cannot be overnight, it takes time.
I think sometimes it's fear. The person is hard because of fear, and maybe they have to understand that their own fear. if I let go and forgive, then what? I make myself vulnerable again, or what? And so it's self-protective, and it's that not humble. Obviously, it's not humble if you don't forgive somebody, but it's not humble in the sense. I thought of Lord Shiva when he went running after Mohini Murti. He wanted to see the Mohini Murti, so Vishnu smiled and said, "Okay." And Lord Shiva went running after Mohini Murti and made a complete fool of himself. And he came back, and he wasn't even embarrassed. He just honored Lord Vishnu and said, "You're greater than me." And so sometimes we don't have that philosophical thing really strong yet, where we understand ourselves as humble before Krishna, as totally small and dependent on Krishna. And what do you expect? Okay, Maya again. So sometimes we can't forgive ourselves or somebody else, can't forgive somebody else because we're scared or we're angry, we don't want to let go, or we can't forgive ourselves or something, because that kind of humility is still weak yet. If we just really understand that kind of humility, I'm just a small spirit soul in illusion, with a material body, and so is the next guy. So Maya is bigger than all of us. So if we have that kind of humility, it makes it easier too, but it takes a long time to grow that kind of humility. There's a lot of fear involved. So I think this is a hot topic. You guys decide who's next. I don't know who's the first.
Mine is just quick. There was a women's conference in Alachua in the year 2000, and I went and with Mother Archana Siddhi, Prabhupada's disciple. She's a family therapist, and she conducted a workshop called From Victim to Victor. And she said that she used an example of the premise was that all these negative emotions, anger, resentment, being unable to forgive, this is a theory, lodge themselves somewhere in your body and then cause disease. And so she said she was counseling a devotee woman that had her husband had an affair with someone, and she would not forgive him. She would not. They separated. She would not forgive him for so long. And then Mataji just kept counseling her, like, you're hurting yourself more than you're hurting him. He's in the Bahamas with his girlfriend. What does he care? But she wouldn't do it. She wouldn't do it. And then finally, she got breast cancer. And this place here is actually where, the heart, the breast, where it can affect you supposedly. And at that point, she realized, I have to give it up. And she did. And then she was a cancer survivor. Because somehow we think, like, as long as we don't forgive that person, they're like not off the hook. But what do they care? They don't care.
Yeah, they hop off the hook and go where they want. You're standing there.
So I guess that wasn't so short.
But the thing is that we still have, and this is a thing that when what's her name was doing her forgiveness seminar. The point is that there are people that have committed child abuse, and this movement hasn't forgiven them. But and that's a really hard one to forgive, that someone has abused a child.
Yeah.
So I find some of this is a little anyway. But Krishna's ultimately we all need to be forgiven, and if you want to be forgiven, you have to learn how to forgive. But there are things that the person actually has to show. They have, this a feeling on their side that they want redemption, that they want to improve, they've recognized they've committed a crime against a child or something like that.
We confuse the internal and the external. If there's a crime, there has to be the right action. There has to be firmness against somebody who's done something like that, so that they can't do it again. There has to be firmness and remembrance of it, and there have to be rules and everything. You have to treat it as the crime it is, and take the action. But there's this personal gnawing thing inside the heart that you hate them. That you let go yourself. That's the kind of forgiveness. If they're not sorry, then at least you have to forgive to save yourself. But it doesn't mean you have to give up the external action against the crime.
Right.
We don't have to confuse those. We can be quite firm. I mean, that's why there are kshatriyas. That's why there is the kshatriya quality in the material world, so that there can be action against somebody else. That there can be action against wrongdoing. But you have to keep a balance internally about it. Actually, there's a hand over here that's been up for a long time. I thought it was a sewing hand. Okay.
Yeah. Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So my question is, like sometimes your advice is to forgive people and everything, and like I can tell you sorry many times, but I'm not feeling sorry. So what to do? Should I still ask for forgiveness if I'm not feeling this genuinely? For example, I committed something and I'm not realizing it. I just know that I have to say sorry, but I'm not feeling sorry. So what should I do in this situation?
Just keep on being Krishna conscious and trying to understand more deeply. It can be that we don't feel sorry, and I'm not saying you, but in my own experience, it can be that we don't feel sorry because we feel very defensive. Because, well, it was wrong against me, and so therefore, something like that, and we're feeling very defensive, and it comes down to fear. So we're not sorry because we're afraid. It could be we're not sorry because we just didn't see what was wrong with that. And maybe it was the other person's weakness and not our own that caused the problem. So, but then there's just a gesture of humility to understand that we aren't being who we really are. We're acting according to the modes and according to illusion. We're only just beginning to change our ways. So there may be something we don't realize that we're doing. And so just a little humility that way. Well, in case I did do something wrong, maybe I don't know yet. Or maybe I'm afraid to look at it. It could be different reasons like that. If somebody keeps demanding that you be sorry and you really don't think you did anything, just, protect yourself a little bit and keep out of trouble. You know what I mean? Give that person a little more space or something. And then maybe eventually you'll understand, or maybe eventually they'll understand, depending what it is. Does that help?
Yeah, I also heard that, for example, you have some thoughts which are not Krishna conscious or they are offensive, and you can't stop your mind, so you can just, you know that these thoughts are bad, and just noticing this will help. And maybe the same thing if you're not feeling sorry, but you're contemplating why you should feel sorry. Maybe even if you're not feeling sorry, in some time it will become automatically, so you will understand and realize deeply what is wrong. But for me, it's I can't say sorry if I'm not feeling sorry, so I don't know if I should say it anyways, because it's not sincere.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it's the other person who is just seeing some wrong, and it's from themselves. Sometimes we project our own problems on the other guy, and we keep telling the other guy they're wrong. So that could be also, in which case there's nothing you can do but except just give a little nice, polite, respectful space. So there's many different causes of these things and many different ways you can choose to act toward it, but just keep trying to find your Krishna conscious way in it. Keep trying to learn more about how
Some
to...
people, they just they say sorry and throwing it in your face it's not sorry at all, and I don't want to sound it because...
Can I just clarify one point? Okay. But I want that example I gave earlier about my previous... after about a 3-year period, I was able to accept and had no bitterness towards these people, and I see my own flaw in it. Sometimes it's just it takes time. I don't carry it around now. But there are issues that I wonder about. Are there certain things that... Because I think that sometimes we overreact to certain... And then, but it's hard. The main thing is we have to, you don't judge unless you can judge yourself.
Yeah. Yes.
That's what I was thinking about.
Oh, Pushni, I guess
when
was...
you said judge yourself, it came to my mind in that parable you could call it in the Bible with Jesus, and everyone was ridiculing this lady by the well. She's doing this not so great thing, and they were going to throw stones. But the Jesus said, whoever has not sinned yet should cast the first stone. And the other thing that came to my mind was, maybe you know this example better from what I'm remembering, that there was this one person and he kept criticizing this other person who did something wrong. And I'm thinking the theme of it is that the other person, you already forgot about it, but you keep bringing it back in your own mind, and it's causing me that kind of negative kind of thing like that. Is that what you're
It's like the two sannyasis story. They're walking along, and there's this woman who can't get across the river, so one of them picks her up and carries her across the river, and sets her down, and they go on their way. And about 10 miles later, the other one says, "You picked up a woman," and he says, "What? I carried her across the river. You're still carrying her." So, but there's so much to learn about this, and I guess it's very difficult for everybody, because every time we come to one of these topics, everybody's all of a sudden got discussion. So, Krishna, should
Right, there's a spiritual technology here of everyone is on the mode, so you're dealing with modes, but there's also this spiritual connection that
psycho-spiritual.
yeah, that's from Scott, Dr. Scott, The Road Less Traveled.
Oh, he doesn't know what spiritual is, but
yeah, but his concept is spiritual, and the people, his patients were trying to live a spiritual life, but they had this psychology and this things happening to them. And so for devotees, we have this thing called karma that we need to get out of the way so karma can take its effect too. And as long as we're in the way, karma can't take the shot.
it's interesting because we can.
And there's a thing.
There's so many psychological things that we read about outside, but actually all the psychology is in Prabhupada's books.
Right.
It's all there, but in different words.
And even the post-traumatic stress issues that they're now really addressing, which we all have, whether you're in combat or whether you're in life, you have post-traumatic issues, because we have traumatic things that happen to us as little kids, as adults, and so we have to deal with those in a spiritual and a psychological way.
Right.
But,
we talk about Narottam? Yeah, we can. I was watching the
Narottam.
clock. I wanted to stop at it.
I just have one sentence.
See this way, yeah?
Prabhupada said, if we do not forgive, then how can we live?
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's true. It's a good one. Okay, let's talk about Narottam Das Thakur. It's his appearance day today. And I'm sure that we will talk about forgiveness another time when it comes up in the verse again, so because we always talk about that one. So, anyways, Narottam Das Thakur's appearance, and he has written many of our songs, like about a third of our songbook, and especially, for example, the Guru Vandana song that we sing for Guru Puja. And he's a great disciple of Lord Chaitanya's disciples. Now, I looked up, and what's really strange? I'm used to hearing a certain story. I don't know where it is, because I couldn't find it. And it's not in the Vaishnava calendar app. And I tried Wikipedia, and it's the same. Wikipedia is exactly the same article as in the Vaishnava calendar app. But what I remember is, I will tell what I remember, and then first time I can read this other thing, because this other story is what I'm used to. Let's see if I'm in the Vaishnava calendar and I get this up. So, okay. I got ready. So what I remember hearing about is the story of how Lord Chaitanya went to the Padma River and became so much in ecstasy and calling Narottam, Narottam, because he was knowing Narottam was coming.
It's in the book.
What? Yeah. Okay. I don't know what book. I don't have it. I don't think.
It's about Srinivas, Narottam, and
what's the book called?
Srinivas, Narottam,
and Shamasundara.
Shamananda. And it's by either Satyaraj or yeah.
So Lord Chaitanya knew he was coming, but he was not going to come during Lord Chaitanya's time. And so Lord Chaitanya got into ecstasy at the Padma River. There was so much ecstasy calling Narottam, Narottam. Nobody knew why. And he went, and the river started rising and waves and everything. The river was in ecstasy. And he told the river that he was giving his prema for Narottam, to the river, to hold for Narottam. And the river said, well, how do I know who he is to give it to him? And he said, when somebody comes who makes you rise up in ecstasy like this, then give it to him. And so that happened after Lord Chaitanya's departure. Narottam appeared. He came to this river as a young man. He appeared in a wealthy family. He came to this river, Padma River, and it rose up and started like dancing and ecstasy, and he was in the river, and he came out changed. He had, in fact, he changed his complexion. He had a dark complexion, and he got a golden complexion like Lord Chaitanya. His parents weren't sure they recognized him because he looked so different, and he was so full of ecstasy. They couldn't understand his behavior. So that I remember, and also Narottama, his name means Nara plus Uttama. Uttama is like the highest, and like ultimate. It must be related to our word ultimate. And Nara means human being. So he's his name means highest human being. And he's one of 3 friends who were disciples of. No, he was a disciple of Gopinath, but then he was studying under whom? Jiva. They were all studying under Jiva?
He was their Shiksha Guru.
Okay.
They all had different.
Okay, thank you. And so they were entrusted. They were 3 really close friends, and they're really sincere, serious students. And then they were entrusted to take these books of the Goswamis to another district to spread this knowledge. And so there was a procession. They had a bullock cart and with a trunk of books, and they were traveling along. And some king was not a Vaishnava. He had an astrologer or somebody who knew somehow, or the dacoits told him or something that there's something really, some treasure going along here, and we can take it. So he said, yeah, get it for me. So in the night they stole the books when everybody was sleeping, and took the trunk to the king, and the king opened his books. He expected treasure, like coins and stuff. And he saw books. What's this? So he didn't know what to do. And I think he felt something. He felt some ecstasy from touching them or something. I think he had, I don't know if he started reading the books or not, but he had some dream in which a saintly person told him, I'm coming soon. And I don't know which one came though. Was it Narottam? I'm telling the story of the 3, how they got the books.
I think it was Srinivasacharya.
Okay. He came and he converted, anyways, simply he converted the king, and the king converted his kingdom, and everybody became Vaishnavas or else. So they all had to chant their rounds. And so that's the story, and of course they got the books back. And it was a really big deal to steal those books, because I'm not sure if they were second copies or if they were the only copies. But it was a big loss.
It would have been a loss,
Yeah, but they got them back. And so we still have a little bit of time. What should I read? Let's see. I'll read a few minutes. This is not really long, and it's identical with the one in, it's totally long.
Actually, I think it was Shamananda.
I think it was Shamananda?
50 years.
Someone's heard him giving a class,
Lord Chaitanya.
speaking. But it doesn't really
At the festival.
I want to get the story right, but it wasn't Narottam. And Narottam had a dear friend, also, besides these 2, he had a dear friend, Ramananda. So Ramananda's name appears in a song. At the end of the song, how he's glorifying all the great saintly persons.
Ramachandra.
Ramachandra was his dear friend. They were like inseparable. So he glorified him too in the end of the song. And he wrote all these songs, and he was famous for starting a new style of ecstatic dancing. New style of song, new style of ecstatic dancing. So, I don't know, how many...
Did you say 50 years after the disappearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he started festivals in Bengal?
50 years after, I don't know, but he did. They started, I don't know who started it. Janavama was heading it. But after the departure of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, they gathered all the Vaishnavas. And I'm sure that Narottam was part of this event. I'm sure he was part of the planning of this event. But they gathered, because different groups of Vaishnavas had different understandings of Lord Chaitanya. So they were teaching different. Like in Navadvip, they taught about him as the, Nimai Pandit kind of Lord Chaitanya. And in Orissa, they taught him as, the renounced sannyasi. They had different, in Vrindavan, they had a different understanding. Everybody had a different understanding of him. So they had a great big gathering of all the Vaishnavas. And they put it all together. And I'm not sure, maybe it was Janavama who put it all together and explained it. I think it was.
Yeah, well, I think so.
Yeah, she explained
I think
how it all fit
organized it.
together.
I think she organized it anyway.
But I think she actually gave the explanation that fit all the parts together into the whole picture. So everybody came out of that festival with a complete understanding of Lord Chaitanya and all of them in agreement because of that. And it was really important because that's what happens. You know, even in ISKCON we see different people and, you know, things just, different understandings grow. And so, because we have Prabhupada's books that tie it all together, which they didn't have those things yet, so many books yet.
It kind of reminds me of what Sureshwar was saying, where he was in Russia, and he was doing a seminar, and the people from the Ritvik group came, and the Gaudiya Math people came, and then he did that. So the head of the Ritvik said, Prabhu, you have bridged the gap of generation.
Yeah, because the Ritviks arose out of a natural reaction to some things that were way out of balance. And then fighting and everything draws the line really deeper and deeper. And Sureshwar is pulling it. He just finished his seminar in Bangalore too, and he said it was very well received. And they felt like that too.
You communicated with him personally? Or?
Yeah, we actually emailed.
He wrote us.
Yeah, and he told us that. So that's really encouraging. So yeah, it all will come together if we understand the whole. A lot of times we fight about the parts of things, and because that's our different understanding. So if they had not had that big festival, there might have been different groups like the Sunnis and Shiites who, you know, hate each other because the other guy's wrong. You know, it might have happened like that. So we have to tie it all together with the whole picture. All the parts are true, but none of the partial parts are complete. So we have to understand the whole thing. And so Sureshwar is doing that too. He's doing a very important thing.
He'll be back here in March.
Yeah, he's coming back for a little bit.
Nice.
So
this was short.
I don't know if it's I don't know if I should read this. It's 8:30 now. I think we talked about the important things. I think.
If you have one more thing, go ahead.
Huh? Well, it's long. You know, it's on this blurb here, and I don't know what biography. Is there some thing about Narottam's writings? I'll do that. Let's see.
His disappearance is very interesting also. Isn't he the one that...
Oh, turned into milk in the paint?
Yeah, his body just melted into the river.
Yeah.
Was he the one with the ring, or was that a different one?
No, that was Dukhi Krishna became Shamananda. It was actually ankle bells.
Ankle bells.
These are really amazing stories. Here it is, 50 years after the disappearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Narottam organized annual festivals in Bengal, which served to keep the Gaudiya philosophy unified. The significant meeting took place in Keturi, where the Gaudiya Vaishnava theology of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's sect was defined. The exact year of this event is unknown, but some say it was around 1572. And then they always have some, I don't know by what system, I don't know if our system or their system. The numbers are a little different. Narottam's writings. Narottam Das is best known for his devotional poetry, wherein he describes emotionally intense feelings toward Radha and Krishna. His prayers, Sri Rupa Manjari Pada and Sri Guru Charana Padma, are still sung in both Gaudiya Math and ISKCON temples on a regular basis. I don't know if we do that on Sri Rupa Manjari Pada that much, but among the writings of Narottam, Prarthana and Prema Bhakti Chandrika, the moon rays of loving devotion, are the most well known. The brief write-up, titled Hatha Paltana, is also attributed to Narottam, but the contents don't seem to be in harmony with me. And this is A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, a spiritual descendant of Narottam, through Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, had often cited his prayers, as many of Gaudiya Vaishnavacharyas did. The prayers of Narottam Das Thakur, he said, this sound is above the material platform. Oh, this is where I read this. It is directly from the spiritual platform, and there's no need of understanding the language. It is just like a thunderburst. Everyone can hear the sound of thunder. There is no misunderstanding. Similarly, these songs are above the material platform, and they crack like thunder within your heart. That's really important. And it's really important because I have heard a senior devotee say, a leader, I heard, more than one probably, that eventually we're going to have to do like the Catholics and dispense with the Latin and translate into the local language, the morning program songs. And I was horrified. And this is the proof that we don't need to do that. This is a quote from Prabhupada, we don't need to do that. In fact, people come and they're like amazed to hear, like a thundercrack, like a thunderbolt here. He says, you're amazed to hear this. You feel something, this is really ancient, this is really important. And then you're so excited when you start learning the meaning of it, you know? So if we change it into our own language, who are we? What kind of language do we have? English isn't even a spiritual language, it's good for business.
It's Sanskrit, the language that Krishna speaks.
And this Bengali, is classical Bengali. Somebody, Narottam Das Thakur, I think, said that people are going to learn Bengali just to understand these songs. So why should we change it? So this is a really important quote. There's no need of understanding the language, that you just hear it.
You know,
the soul is such.
But there was an old Back to Godhead from the 1950s. And I don't know where it went, because I've seen copies of the old Back to Godheads on the database, but this one I don't see. And it was there. It was probably left there by Kirtananda at one point. And it had an article written by Prabhupada, and it's for one world government. One flag, one God, one scripture, one currency. He said there should be one language, and that should be English, because, you know, the English had already spread the language so far and wide. But the Sanskrit, we should always be used by the priests. You know, that should continue. And anyone how can you chant the Hare Krishna mantra in English?
Yeah.
I mean, does it make sense? It's Krishna. That's who he is. It's not all attractive.
Yeah, we have some responsibility to do some learning and not just have it handed to us in easy doses that aren't powerful.
So he said, you know, for communication purposes, and then maybe that will change somewhere down the road. But he was a pragmatist. And you know, the English language is the universal language for air traffic control, things like of that nature. It's there, but everyone, the priests, all the Brahmins should know Sanskrit. And that, you know, will never change. Anyway,
why compare to the Catholics? Because what's Latin? Latin isn't even the original language. It was written in Greek and Hebrew. So I mean, why compare it to that? We have the original language. What a treasure! Sometimes when I was distributing books, a few times I would try. I wasn't very good at it, but I would say, when I was giving classes to new people in Little 5 Points in Atlanta, I was giving lots of classes. I would say to people, how many times do you get the opportunity to see the original language of a scripture and know the word meanings? How many times do you get that chance? And so I would make them, you know, even new people, I'd say, make them pronounce it, you know, give it a try. And they'd go away ecstatic because they had a good time. So, we cannot change this. This quote really should be put up really big so that nobody can get a different idea.
The soul is Satchitananda, so on the spiritual level, it understands.
It's our language, yeah.
Because Allen Ginsberg wanted to change things back in the day, too.
Yeah,
and Prabhupada said no.
It is our language. We don't know
soul
it.
language.
And we don't know it in our material brain, in our material conditioning, but it is our language. It's the eternal language. In all the languages of the world, you can trace out some Sanskrit roots. Why not do the original? So, in Bengali, classical Bengali is pretty closely related, is it not?
Yeah, closely related to Sanskrit.
So, okay, anything else? I'm going to stop here. Thank you all very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Srimad Bhagavatam, all glories to Srila Narottam Das Thakur.
Jai.